What's up guys, Mitch from the DIY recording studio, and today this is a bit of a different video to what I'd normally do. By now you would all know that last week Steve Albini passed away, and it's a pretty huge deal within the audio community. His influence as a producer is massive. He's influenced artists and producers for generations now, for decades, and sadly, he was only 61. Like, it's not even that old in today's day and age with modern healthcare and stuff like that. And when anything tragic like this happens, I just think we all tend to reflect on our own mortality and our own well-being. And like, I don't mean that in like a selfish way or anything, but it does impact us all. And I think maybe it's a timely reminder to think of the ways we can better care for ourselves, because in the music and audio industry, it's a hard industry to work in. It has a lot of things that can be very taxing: the lifestyle, the hours of work, the exposure to all kinds of substances. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these are the things that impacted Steve Albini's death or anything like that. I'm just saying that with his passing, and passing so young, maybe it's a good time to have a discussion about the things that we can do to look after ourselves. Because, you know, it is a hard industry to work in, and there are things that we can do to better help ourselves in our careers and hopefully live a sustainable, long-lasting career in our industries. Be it as a performer, an artist, or a producer, or an engineer. You know, we all want to be in this for the rest of our lives, and there are things that we need to take care of to make that happen. So, bit of a different video, as I said, today. So let's go over and just have a discussion about some of the things we can do to make our lives sustainable in this very challenging industry. The first thing to take care of ourselves, and the first thing we can do, is probably one of the hardest. It's simple, but it's get more sleep and get better quality of sleep. We work in an industry where we sometimes are expected to work long hours or work ridiculous hours until the morning. Like some engineers in studios might work from 12 till 7 in the morning, or all kinds of crazy stuff. So it depends on the career that we're in. But in modern times, there are a lot of engineers nowadays who are moving into home studio setups and trying to get a better balance in their lives, in their work hours. And that's for good reason. It's because working long hours, 12 or more hours every single day, and not taking breaks and all of these kind of things take a toll on us mentally and physically. And whilst you're young, it's really easy to work crazy hours, and if that's what you want to do, you should definitely, do that. Like, I did the same thing. I worked ridiculous hours as a young person, but I'm now nearing my 40s. I have 2 young children at home, and once you have those priorities, like your own kids and your own family and all these other responsibilities, you have to take that sleep when you can get it, and you have to try and get good quality sleep. And it's for your own well-being. We all, it's recommended we get 8 hours of sleep. Now, having 2 young kids, I don't always get 8 hours of sleep. 8 hours of sleep is a dream for me if I ever get that. But, that's the sort of recommended healthy range of sleep. And if you're not getting 8 hours when you can, you should be aiming for that and really trying to look after that side of your well-being. The other thing that really impacts our health in the audio industry in particular, working either in live or working in a studio, is our diets. We are surrounded by artists in the studio who typically they might come into the studio session, and when it's time for lunch, they might want catering, or they might go to local takeaway or whatever's available locally. Or particularly in live audio, especially when I used to work in live audio, you're working crazy hours of the night, and sometimes your only option for food is takeaway. And man, I used to eat pretty bad back in the day, and I would live on pizza and pies and takeaway food and food from service stations and stuff like that. And it's just because that's what's around. That's all you have access to. So eventually, as I started more to the end of my live audio career and into more studio stuff, I did start to take care of my diet more, and I noticed a much more positive impact. My energy levels were better throughout the night. You know, my weight changed and my health and my energy levels changed just because of simple diet changes and making healthier choices there and preparing meals and stuff. So there are ways to manage that, and preparing meals is a good one, especially when you're working in a studio. You can take prepared meals and then just heat it up and then work fast. And it actually makes you work faster because you're not worrying about ordering takeout or, you know, worrying about what you're going to eat. You already have your meals prepared, and then your energy levels and your proficiency through those sessions actually can be better because you're eating healthier as well. So there's added benefits to this stuff, not just, you know, for your health reasons, but your productivity can become better too. And I should also add that if we're eating well, we should be staying hydrated. And like, I love having a beer and socializing, but during work, I'm definitely going to be drinking lots of water and staying hydrated and staying focused on my job. And that's a really important one as well. Drinking water, not just drinking soft drinks or juice. Water is the thing that we need, so make sure you're drinking plenty of water during your sessions. The next one is probably one that's become more important to me recently with having a young family. I've started to notice over the years the impact that working in music and working insane hours and working and living in that lifestyle can impact on your social life. When you are working odd hours as an audio engineer or a studio engineer, you can actually impact your social life a lot, and you end up working a lot of weekends, which is when most people have social events on, and you can often miss out on those opportunities. And, you know, once again, if you're young and freelancing and have to take any work that you can get, it can be really difficult to say no to jobs, especially when they're weekend jobs or if they're jobs at late hours and stuff like that. So I understand that, but it is very, very important to make sure that you have a healthy and active social life with positive people that you surround yourself with. There's some kind of statistic out there that the people that have the most positive interactions with people and catch up with friends on a regular basis live longer. That's just a thing. We are social beings. We're supposed to talk to people and go out and socialize with each other, and it's a really, really important thing to make sure you're getting those healthy social regular interactions with people for your own well-being. And once again, there's an added benefit to that, because that can be you going out with friends, but also networking and meeting other people in your community. And that might be an opportunity to meet other artists or talk to your friends about things happening in your industry. And there's so many other positives to socializing with people other than just your own mental well-being and physical well-being as well. The next one we should talk about while we're talking about physical well-being, obviously we work in a very sedentary kind of lifestyle. Even if you're doing live audio, you might move around a bit when you're setting up for a show, but then you can be sedentary for a lot of the night. You can be standing at a desk, not moving really that much. You're not doing anything that's crazy labor intensive. And then on top of that, if you're touring, you're sitting in cars and stuff for a long time, driving around. And then if you're in the studio, it's even more sedentary again. We're sitting on our butts for long periods of time. And many, many engineers have talked about this. You need to be active. You need to get up. You need to move around. Obviously, you should be taking breaks. Recommended break time is every couple of hours. You should be getting up, going for a walk, getting outside, getting some fresh air, getting some sun and some vitamin D. But also you should be trying to get some kind of regular exercise in as well. Personally, I exercise 3 to 4 times a week. I'm lucky enough that I've built myself a gym. If I literally take you outside this door, hey, why not? Let's do that. So let's go out the back of my studio here. So during COVID, during lockdowns and stuff, I was lucky enough to purchase myself early on some dumbbells, got a weight rack, a Smith machine, some benches, bunch of weights and stuff like that. And I train out here 3 to 4 times a week. And that's just a thing that I prefer to do for my own well-being. Not everyone has to do this. Not everyone has the space or the luxury of having a home gym. I understand that, but you should be getting some kind of exercise, whatever that may be. Just going for a walk, going down to your local park or whatever you have available to you and getting 15 to 30 minutes of exercise a day is really, really important to your physical and mental well-being. Let's go back inside. So next thing we need to look after with ourselves that can cause lots and lots of stress to people is finances. And interestingly enough, this point actually does tie into the Steve Albini thing a little bit, where he famously did struggle financially over the years. He was lucky that he was such a prestigious poker player and won lots of money in some pretty big tournaments, and that helped him finance and keep his studio open. And without that, he probably wasn't able to do the things he did. You should all know that there's a fax that he sent to Nirvana during In Utero where he didn't want to take a cut of royalties, and all props to Steve for doing that and his ethics and his ethos around what he should be paid as an engineer and what his role was in the process as a creative, as an engineer, was really interesting. And honestly, I don't totally agree with where he comes from on that. I fucking totally respect where he can just negate taking royalties. That takes some big fucking balls. Let's just say that. I personally am not that good a human. I would definitely take a cut if I was producing a record, but that's just me personally. And I can see where he's coming from. Once upon a time when I first started out, I undercharged bands and I did things on the cheap and whatever. But look, you have to look after your finances at the end of the day, and you have to make sure that you are financially secure, because finances do take a toll and can create huge stresses in your life. It's one of the hardest things we deal with, paying bills, especially in today's day and age where inflation's out of control right now, and it doesn't matter what country you live in, we're all going through the same kind of things where things are expensive and it's hard to afford a place to live, and rent's expensive, buying a home's expensive. It's just crazy. And if you're trying to work in the creative industries on top of that, it can be so hard financially in all kinds of ways. So if you have the opportunity to work on your finances and figure out ways to have stable income, you should be definitely doing that, and you should be securing your financial stability for the long term so that you have things like superannuation or 401k or whatever you call it in America. You need to have something as a nest egg for later on in life, and you need to have money for a rainy day. And on top of that, you have to be careful of the purchases. I have some really cool gear in this studio. I consider them kind of an investment. I could sell them if I got stuck financially and make some money on some of the stuff that I've built over the years and all that kind of stuff. But there also comes a time where you have to go, when's enough enough? Because if you keep buying gear, eventually you're going to earn that money back and recoup that from working with artists, and the more you spend, the more you have to recoup for the rest of your life. So look, I'm just saying all of these things add up to financial stress if you're not careful. And I'm not saying this is why Steve Albini passed away. It's just these things are stresses in our life, and they're things to be careful about. And the last one is probably a pretty big one, and I'll leave it here, but we all need to take care of our mental well-being. In the last year, I had some interesting changes in my life that became, pretty stressful, and I'll probably do a video on it in the near future to sort of tell you guys what I'm doing and where I'm at and how I got to doing more studio stuff that I've been doing lately. But that's for another video. But the final thing I want to leave you with is that we should all look after our mental well-being, and going a step further than all of these things like food, diet, hydration, social stuff. All of those things are things that will help our mental well-being, but our job can be, at the end of the day, even if we take all of these things into consideration, it can be isolating, it can be stressful, and life's stressful, and we all have hard times, and being a creative is challenging, and it's challenging in lots of ways, not just as a creative person, but it can be challenging mentally because it takes hits to the ego to do what we do. And all I'm trying to say is that if you need help with your mental well-being, you should definitely talk to someone. I have recently. I've actually gone through some stuff recently, and I've started to realize that whilst eating well and training regularly is a thing, we should also be doing mental checkups regularly as well. It's definitely something that you should think about if you don't do that already. Seeing or seeking out advice for your mental well-being and getting checked up with those kind of things is something that you should definitely consider. It definitely helps to talk to professionals, industry professionals, and seek advice on where you are at and potentially get, as I said, just like a checkup. In the same way you would get a physical checkup, have a mental checkup as well. It's a tough one to talk about. I find it challenging to talk about, but it's definitely something that I'm trying to be more like focused on and kind of more open about as well. So, like if you haven't spoken to a counselor before, it can be pretty daunting. I know I felt really scared about that kind of stuff. And even talking about it feels like just like such a challenge, and it shouldn't. I think we live in a world now where everyone's pretty accepting of those kind of things, and we have an open dialogue in a lot of different ways about this stuff. Like most people are pretty open about seeking this stuff, but it's still, I don't know, it's challenging to talk about. So, I just think it's something that we should all do, and especially as creative people and especially as engineers who are locked away on our own a lot, definitely you should be looking after your mental well-being. Anyway, a bit of a heavy one today, but hopefully you all get something from this conversation. It feels cathartic for me just to talk about these things. Yeah, and I hope that, maybe it helps some of you as well, because, we're getting to the point where like a lot of our heroes are reaching those kind of ages, and that stuff can be really hard to deal with. These people, even though we might never meet them, have an impact on our life, and it makes us reflect on things, and that's okay, but we need to sort of check on ourselves every now and then. That's all I'm kind of trying to say. Anyway, bit of a different video today, but hope you're all doing well. If you ever need advice or help with anything, you can also reach out to me as well. I hope you're all doing well out there, and I'll catch you soon.